This is Lorenzo, and this is the Training Routines Taxonomy video series, lesson number 20. It's the final lesson in the series. It's on routine number 16, the invert track, which is a gymnastics routine focused on helping you develop pressing strength in the vertical dimension, just like the press complex. It's been designed to help you achieve 3 of the 30 fitness benchmarks, some of the most advanced benchmarks like the press handstand, the handstand push-up, and the Hollowback press. And we're going to do so using the MSP exercise protocol framework. Again, only 5 exercises. Let's take a look. The invert track is the 7th of 7 upper body routines and the 4th out of a total of 4 press vector routines. Speaking of routines, on the left of our matrix, we can see the routine type that we're dealing with is a track, which means it's a gymnastics routine. And again, it's focused on helping you develop pressing strength in the vertical vector. The muscle groups involved, just like with the press complex, will be the anterior deltoids. We've got the triceps, and together with the press complex, the invert track has been designed to help you master one of the body's 9-dimensional skills, namely overhead strength and control. To the right of our matrix, we have our exercise protocol. Again, 5 exercises that make up the invert track, which we know is going to be based on a coherent training plan with clearly stated objectives, strategies, and tactics. So let's take a look. The invert track has been designed to help you achieve 3 of the 30 fitness benchmarks and specifically 3 of the 21 gymnastics specific benchmarks. The first is the press handstand, which is a benchmark of dynamic straight arm stability and strength. And there are many variations of the press handstand. We've got the straddle press handstand, the pike press handstand. Your goal is to pick a variation and to practice doing 6 press handstands in a row for the guys. And for the girls, you want to be able to demonstrate at least 3 press handstands in a row to demonstrate competence. Next, we have the handstand push-up, which is a benchmark of dynamic bent arm pressing strength. Your goal as a recreational male athlete is to do 6 reps in a row. And for the girls, also, your goal is to do 3 reps in a row with good form. Finally, we have the Hollowback press, also known as the 90-degree push-up. It is a benchmark of multi-vector dynamic bent arm pressing strength. As you'll see, it's not just a vertical press, it's both a horizontal and vertical press in one movement. Your goal is to be able to do 3 reps consecutively to demonstrate competence. And for the girls, at least 1 clean rep is sufficient. As for our strategy, the press handstand, handstand push-up, and the Hollowback press all rely on the following mobility, stability, and strength requirements. You have wrist extension mobility. It requires shoulder flexion mobility, scapular elevation stability in a straight arm and bent arm position, and finally, elbow extension and shoulder flexion strength. As for our tactics, or the ideal training environment equipment we need to implement our strategy, we need an open training zone. We need space to really learn how to not fall with all our handstand work. And then as far as our equipment's concerned, we're going to need a pad, a box, and a dowel. Okay, so with our objective and our strategy in mind, we know what we're aiming for, and we have our tactics in place. You've got your equipment ready. We're finally ready to implement the MSP exercise protocol framework as it applies to the invert track. So for our first 2 exercises in the mobility category, serving as our warm-up, but also an opportunity to address those wrist and shoulder mobility deficits once and for all. For our first exercise, we have our straight arm wrist series, which we saw on the push track. For our second exercise, we have the straight arm seated flexion, which we saw in the previous complex track video. For our third exercise in the stability category, following the 60-second rule, we have the straight arm press handstand, focused on our very first benchmark. As well as its progressions, we first need to unlock our handstand before we can confidently practice our press handstands. For our fourth exercise, a bent arm static hold, the head hover. And for our fifth and final exercise in the strength category, following the 30-rep rule, we have the full range handstand push-up itself, allowing us to focus on unlocking the last two benchmarks using either the beginner variations or the more advanced Hollowback press progressions. So what I want to do is show you what each of these exercises look like and show you how they build on top of each other, because regardless of what level you're at, you're going to be following the structure, but you're going to be working on different progressions depending on your level. We start our routine with the wrist series as we saw it in the push track. We will spend about 5 minutes just mobilizing the wrist joint in every angle that we can. The goal here is to warm up the wrist, but also to work on certain deficits that we may have. And if you've had a previous injury, it's also great to know where your current limits are. The next exercise, as we saw it in the previous video, was the seated flexion. Now, again, you can either do the seated flexion to really warm up those shoulders. The point of this position is to really learn to articulate the scapula, push it into elevation, opening up those shoulder joints. Alternatively, you guys recall that you can also do the butcher's block instead of the seated flexion. Okay, once we're done with our mobility work, we can move on to the third exercise in the series, which is the press handstand. But for most of us, we will have to first learn to master the handstand. Your goal here is to hold the handstand for at least 30 seconds before you start practicing your press handstands. And your press handstands, you can practice from multiple different directions, from the press going up and from the top coming back down. So you want to be able to spend at least 60 seconds of high quality work on whichever progression you're on. So if you're on the handstand, make sure that whatever progression you're on for the handstand, you want to accumulate the highest quality 60 seconds of work to make sure that you progress to the next level. Once you get to 30 seconds, you can start to practice your press handstands. Once we're done with our press handstand work, we can move on to the fourth exercise, which is the head hover. The press handstand is a straight arm dynamic strength exercise. The head hover is a bent arm static strength or stability exercise, as you can see it here. And as the name suggests, the head hover is where your head will hover just off the ground in a handstand position against the wall, as you see over here. Now, if you don't have enough strength or confidence in this position, you can start with the pike head hover, which looks like the downward dog. You'll hold this for 60 seconds. And once you can hold 60 seconds in this position straight, move on to the next progression, which will be elevated pike head hover. Hold this for 60 seconds and then eventually work your way to the wall. Once we're done with our head hover exercise, we're finally ready to move to the fifth and final exercise in this routine, the handstand push-up itself, which is also focused on helping you unlock the second and third benchmark in this routine. We're going to do so following the 30 rep rule. Now, the free handstand push-up is what you're aiming for, as you can see me doing it here. Now, even I can't do 30 in a row. I have to break this up. I usually do 5 reps at a time, and then I'll have to do like 6 sets, depending on the day. Now, for most of you, you guys will have to start with the pike handstand push-up, as you guys see it over here. And so once you can do 30 reps in one go in the pike handstand position on the ground, you can finally introduce some elevation to make it a bit more challenging by placing your feet on the box. Also here, your goal is to do 30 reps in one go, and eventually you're going to work your way towards the wall. Together with the free handstand, you will have enough strength to start practicing the full handstand push-up. Now, while this is one of the most difficult routines to practice, it's also one of the most rewarding. And regardless of what level you're at, there's a progression for everyone. Everyone can make progress with their handstands and their press handstands and eventually get a handstand push-up. It's a matter of taking the time, right? So this is one of the most skill-intensive routines out of the 16. So you definitely need to take extra time to learn these movements. But I want to leave you with a bit of a roadmap of how to think about this entire routine. So the first thing that you want to focus on is just to get your 30-second handstand, because that's going to be the foundation for everything. Once you have a 30-second solid free handstand, you can start to work on your press handstands. And your press handstands, you're going to focus on in 2 ways. First, pressing into your handstand, whether it's in a pike or straddle position. Again, if you are confused by all the different progressions, I will link a video to each of these exercises showing you which progression you should be focused on, but I'm just giving you a bit of a roadmap. So for the press handstand, you'll first want to learn how to press into the handstand once you obviously have your handstand push-up. So that's going to be the press part. The second part is coming down from your press handstand, learning to control your body down, as you can see me doing it there. And so let's call that the eccentric phase. And so you want to focus on different elements at a time. And remember the 60-second rule. Whatever progression or variation that you're practicing, make sure that you accumulate a total of 60 seconds of the highest quality work that you can. As for the head hover, you also really want to spend time accumulating 60 seconds of high quality work in a static position. You want to start to build the strength in an upside down or inverted handstand position. So make sure that you work towards a solid, at least 30 seconds of being able to hold yourself against the wall in the head hover position for 30 seconds straight. So you want to build that static strength first. And finally, for the handstand push-up, once you've got a 30-second solid handstand, you've got some press handstand competence under your belt, and you can do a 30-second static hold in the head hover position, you want to then start to bring all these elements together and work on a full handstand push-up. And once you can get to 10 handstand push-ups plus, or for the girls, you're working on at least 3 handstand push-ups, you can start to practice the final variation of the series, which is the Hollowback press, or what is known as the 90-degree push-up, as you see it here. This is the final integration of this routine. It's beautiful because you're going from the vertical press into horizontal and from horizontal back into vertical and integrating both dimensions, the horizontal and the vertical, into one movement. So in summary, the invert track is the wrist series, followed by the seated flexion or the butcher's block. Then you'll finally move into your stability work, the press handstand and its many progressions. Again, first master that handstand, and then you will master your static strength in the head hover position. And then finally, you will learn how to do 30 handstand push-ups at whatever level you're at, working towards the full handstand push-up, and finally the hollow back press. But wait, there's more. Now, before you go, firstly, I just want to say congratulations for finishing this training routines taxonomy video series. You now have all 16 routines to help you master those 30 fitness goals for life. Your next step is to watch the training space taxonomy video series, because in there, I'm going to teach you how to set up your own home gym from scratch so that you can implement all the exercises and routines that you learned about in the training routines taxonomy video series. See you there.